Okay, welcome everybody to the 10th transmission of the coup d'etat of boxing. Apologies for the late commencement of the show. It's always a punishing schedule when we've had a fight card in the early hours of the morning, and you know, a lot of preparation to do in the following day. So it's kind of tough, you know. Official and myself we've got work, family commitments as well, especially on the Sunday, you know, one of the recuperation days. So it's a lot of testing, a lot of research, a lot of preparation goes into the show as well. So sometimes it's not always possible to commence it on time. But anyway, our apologies for that. I want to thank everybody who's joined us for the live YouTube show. Coup d'etat of Boxing is a sort of a brand new contemporary show, which is a joint venture between myself and Official Scorecard Boxing Science. Yeah, we're taking a different sort of approach on boxing. We're getting extremely sort of scientific, critical, doing a lot of video analysis, and yeah, it's going very well. You know, we've had great feedback, and we want to thank everybody for all of the, you know, the positive comments and the likes, etc. And yeah, as long as we continue to put on the good show, then I'm sure you guys will reciprocate and you know, send the show out to others and try and expand the network. I want to welcome my joint host, Official. How you doing, my man?
Good evening. I was about to say good evening, Official. Good evening, Corruption. Yeah, I guess I'm doing well. Yeah, like you said, sorry to all of our listeners for being late, but yeah, we are doing a lot of stuff. And just like you said, in order to prepare the show, we are not, you know, just able to go live and freestyle. No, unlike the most, we are doing some real job on preparation, and I spent a lot of time preparing my breakdown videos for the show, for the later part of the show. But anyways, I'm doing well. It's the jubilar 10th episode. I'm wearing my best suit, drinking champagne.
Yeah, man. Official's got the pinstripe suit out.
Yeah, by the way, Corruption, great shoes. Are those patriotis?
Sorry?
No, I was throwing a joke about us, you know, wearing our best three pieces, and I was complimenting on your shoes.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's get straight down to it. The night shift warriors have resumed consciousness, and a hell of a lot to talk about. Let's get into straight away the fight card, which took place in the early hours of the morning. Top Rank Boxing in the bubble on live on ESPN. Two significant fights, but for us, the perennial fight that we really was looking forward to, and sadly was marred in all sorts of controversy, and we want to get straight into it. It was the rematch from super flyweight WBA regular championship. Joshua Franco defending his title for the first time in a rematch against the Australian Andrew Moloney, aka the Monster. Pretty ironic, because the real Monster actually decimated his brother just a little while ago. So Top Rank Boxing, Bob Arum, a little bit pissed off that his new signing had been disposed of in the first outing. Kind of makes Bob Arum look like a piece of shit. But the first fight took place on the 23rd of June. So pretty swift in terms of a turnaround for the second fight. Now, a hell of a lot of controversy regarding the fight, the conclusion of the fight at the end of the second round. Now, a lot of people are talking about the corruption that was clearly evident in the fight, but they feel that Joshua Franco was the beneficiary of what transpired, and we'll get into that. But there was a lot of there was a hell of a lot of absent voices regarding the first fight. Now, if you go back to the first fight, The first fight was a 12-round decision, and two of the scorecards were 114, 113, and Julie Lederman's third card was 115, 112. Now, Joshua Franco had pretty much dominated the fight, certainly from the second half of the fight, but he was still very, very competitive, very accurate, very composed in the first half of the fight. And he was slowly breaking down Moloney with his heavier shots. He kind of compensates volume for punch placement, power. He's a mid-range machine with a beautiful counter left hand as well. He can counter with the jab, counter with the hook. Doesn't matter to him. He can come downstairs to the body. There's not a lot of significant movement with him. He's just coming forward in one direction, but he's not a high volume puncher. As I mentioned, he's about accuracy and power, head and body. He's going to break you down. He's going to hurt you to the body, and he's going to knock you out. Very, very talented fighter. If any of you guys have seen his trilogy with, Oscar Negrete, brilliant, 3 10-minute fights, which took place a little while ago, but pretty much no one's even spoken about those fights. Now, so Joshua Franco had floored Andrew Moloney in the 11th round as well. So two of the judges had it 114, 113. So if Joshua Franco didn't induce the knockdown, then Andrew Moloney would have clearly have defended his belts. So what about the proposed corruption that was going to take place in the first fight in terms of Andrew Moloney being protected and insulated by Top Rank, a new signing, so they want him to keep the belt. And the fact that they're having a rematch after such a dominant performance from Franco, does that not indicate to you that Bob Arum, wasn't clearly, absolutely didn't want anything to do with Franco having the belts? He wanted Moloney to get the belt straight back. So it's you can look at everything in two ways. So Moloney wanted the rematch, and he changed up his tactics. Moloney is predominantly a body puncher. Around 33% of his punches are down to the body. He's a very good puncher, but in the first round, in the first fight, he was engaging a little bit too much at mid-range with Franco, and it really came down to power. Franco was landing the heavier punches, and Moloney couldn't repel that sort of firepower. So he was talking about changing up his tactics in this fight, and specifically what he wanted to do was get out of mid-range and try and use more lateral movement, box from the outside, box and pot shot, try and sit down on his punches, not bounce up and down as he was doing certainly in the second half of the fight, where he was getting counter to the body beautifully, and he was feeling the punches landing on his to his liver. So he was bouncing up and down just to try and recuperate. But Franco would anticipate those movements and come in and land heavier combinations as well. So Franco did a great job in the first fight. So Moloney came out in this fight, and he was extremely active straight away. He was landing combinations, good combinations from the outside, jab, then cut the distance, come in, do some body work, and then try and smother Franco's work at that sort of mid-range where he's super effective. Now, at 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the round, you could hear Russell Moore, the referee, clearly make the distinction in terms of an accidental head clash taking place, and the damage was instantly visible on the right eye of Joshua Franco. So it doesn't matter that the referee may have made a mistake, but clearly he's given his reasons. A little bit like when you do a mathematics exam, the examiners will still give you points for doing your working out if your final answer is wrong. So in this case, the referee still has made a call. So if you're doing an audit trail or you're backtracking, you can clearly see at what point. Now, Moloney was coming in to smother the work, so there was a possibility that it could have been a a head clash. Couldn't really tell at times. The camera angle is not always the best, but the swelling was pretty much instantaneous. Now during my days of boxing in the past, I can tell you that when a thumb has actually hit the cornea or the inside of the eye, or even the laces, your eye is an extremely vascular organ. A tremendous amount of blood flow is going into the eye, and your eye, the back of the eye is connected not only to your brain but to your central nervous system as well. So it is a multi-tiered, multi-linked sort of organ. Now, if I thumb you in the eye, what's going to happen is your eye is going to go instantly bloodshot red, and tears are going to be erupting from your eye. You're not going to be able to look. You're going to go down on your knees, writhing in pain. And I didn't see Joshua Franco pretty much do any of that. He was a little bit hesitant, a little bit. I noticed he wasn't countering with his lead hand, so I can clearly see he was having some problems seeing out of the eye. So I'm not too sure whether it was a thumb. Now, the way the gloves have been reconfigured to prevent thumbing that was taking place all the time in the 50s, 60s, and the 70s. So the thumb part is actually attached, to the glove. To me, it looked like it may have been more the knuckle part that actually landed on top of the eye, because that would explain the swelling that takes place. If it's an object that is actually, if it's impacted the pupil or the cornea, then you're right. And when the doctor was examining the eye, he could clearly see that Franco was able to open the eye, and he was able to move his pupil, but I couldn't see his eye bloodshot red. I couldn't see tears sort of, erupting from it. So kind of a bizarre injury, but nevertheless, the second round, Moloney could see that Franco's eye was shut in a bit. The doctor had a look at the eye as well. Franco wasn't countering with his left hand, but he was starting to throw a little bit more punches as well. But I guess that the writing was pretty much on the end that was there. Now it had to be 4 completed rounds for the fight to go to the scorecards. But if it's an accidental injury and the referee stops the fight, then it's down to what caused it. Now, given that the referee had indicated an accidental head clash, so the fight was stopped at the end of the second round. Now, this is the problem. This is one of those fights where I'm actually happy that truth and justice didn't prevail, because Bob Arum has clearly tried to abuse his power in the situation. It's pretty unprecedented that he can use video replays just for his fighters. In Vegas, never used it in the past. So if you're using video replay just to adjudicate this fight, well, what about all of the other fights? What about all of the other fights that have taken place, and certainly on top ranked cards as well, for low blows? If you're going to use it specifically for this, then you've got to really use video replay to adjudicate a full fight over. So the fact that ESPN are trying to influence the decision as well, and they're allowing the commission to utilize their own replays, and they're clearly interacting with them, that's a conflict of interest, and they've got no such jurisdiction in that case. Now, to me, it was clearly simple that that a head clash didn't take place. But for Bob Arum to think that he is now bigger than boxing and he can utilize rules at his own will, and there's no coincidence that Top Rank Incorporated is not based in Las Vegas for a reason. He wields sufficient amount of power there. But we've seen his fighters being fucked over just a couple of weeks ago. And they're afforded no such an impartial system just to look at the fight. So I'm official. The way I look at it, I am not pissed off by this decision at all. Actually, I'm very, very ecstatic that Joshua Franco was able to keep his belt. The referee indicated accidental head clash. The Nevada State Athletic Commission didn't see sufficient evidence that can overturn the Russell Mora's initial call, and it was ruled an accidental head clash that induced the injury, and therefore, as a punch didn't cause the injury according to the referee and the commission. The initial decision was upheld, and Joshua Franco keeps his belt on a no decision. Pretty chaotic. 25 minutes expanded. Top Rank trying to exert all their power of influence. It talks about the incompetence of all of these guys who are reviewing the evidence, and they weren't able to make that demarcation. But official Top Rank were clearly trying to screw over Franco in the first fight. A rematch was not warranted at all, but he got it back into the ring. And pretty ironic that he's able to leave the fight with his championship belt, and all of the attempts were made to relieve him of the belt, but the commission didn't play ball with Bob Arum. Unbelievable.
Yeah, see, I think that I clearly saw what happened in the fight, because right before the show, I was able to just quickly take a look at what happened, to watch the replay and watch the Crawford-Brook fight. Now, I'm confused about something. Although I clearly saw what happened, in my opinion, I'm still confused by what Tim Bradley said. And what Tim Bradley said during the live, I'm taking it with a grain of salt, because after all, he's a company man. He's working for ESPN. He's always biased in Bob Arum's fighter's favor. But what he said during the live transmission was that, in his own words, being that the thumb part of the glove is attached to the glove itself, that even a thumb landing on a scoring part of the opponent, of the target, is legal. Now, if those are the real rules, if it really is like that, then okay, it was a legal punch in that case. But what I saw watching it and rewatching the replay today was, in fact, Jason Moloney clearly landing a thumb on Franco's eye, because you can even take a look at this very thumbnail for a video, and although because of the camera angle, we are not really able to see the thumb part of the glove, but what we can see is where the knuckle part of Moloney's gloves is ending, and it's right on the edge of Franco's eye. And watching the replay, to me, it's clear, despite not being able to see that thumb or his glove from the other side, it's clear to me that it was the thumb that caused the swelling. So, in my opinion, what I'm telling myself in my head, if punching with an unpadded, with the palm part of the glove is illegal, it only makes sense that also punching with the thumb part of the glove should be illegal as well. So because of that, I would say it was a thumb. It was an illegal punch, and so I would agree with the decision. But if the official rules are saying that even landing a thumb is legal, then in that case you can say that Moloney got fucked over. So that's my opinion. And look, I wanted to watch the first fight before this rematch, but I didn't have enough of time. But it was actually a very good fight, and you were right, because although you haven't been able to speak publicly on the podcasts about your thoughts on this rematch, you were telling to me the last night before the fight that you would expect not Franco, Moloney to box from the outside, just like he was doing, and no matter if he deserves the victory or not, to get the decision. And that's also why Bob Arum was pissed off. But I'm glad that he was pissed off. I mean,
Official.
yeah,
It's. I mean, humans are basically now conquering interstellar travel, but video replays are just available now. Video replays could have been implemented in 1962.
yeah,
It's kind of you really got to take everything with a pinch of salt when it comes to the implementation of video technology and the ad hoc times in which it's used in championship fights. It's a little bit like the the franchise championship, as we mentioned that the WBC have got two different rules for the same belt in two different weight divisions, specifically because there isn't a franchise championship belt in all of the 17 weight classes, in which case then you can implement a homogeneous rule throughout and say that this belt is the main belt and it's unifiable, and this belt is not unifiable because it's not recognized by anybody as the main belt. So they don't want to do that. The whole point of this whole cobalt fraudulent system is to chaos, negative chaos, confusion, not uniform rules, no consistency. That's how you destabilize the mind. That's how you confuse boxing fans, etc. It's like what the Russians have been using for a number of years with the GFU and their tactics in terms of manipulating elections, etc. Influencing of adverse measures to foreign policy, etc. And the same sort of thing to a microcosm goes on in boxing as well. We've seen it. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago with DAZN and the way they tried to influence the Estrada and Quadras fight as well. So it's more and more visible now. It's pervasive, and boxing promoters are doing everything in their capacity to make sure that the fighters that they promote keep their championship belts. And once upon a time, they couldn't give a flying fuck about the champions at minimum weight, flyweight, even featherweight. But we're seeing now that these champions are also getting an extension of this protection as well. So they're looking at their full roster of fighters and all of their champions as well. That kind of tells you what the state of boxing is at the moment. We've got trade wars going on between the different promoters. We've got tariffs, effective tariffs. The PBC are not doing business with anybody else. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That's why the sanctioning bodies are now introducing more belts, and they're disseminating the belts in different television networks, specifically because of the lack of business done cross-promotional. So boxing is an unbelievably terrible state, and that a WBC are abusing their power once more by introducing a new weight class. No coincidence that it's only them who have endorsed it, because they're trying to be promoters now. They're trying to promote the Mike Tyson and the Roy Jones fight. Since when is an exhibition fight subject to
Oh yeah.
open WBC scoring, a knockdown rule, video replay, and clean boxing program? It is a fucking joke. That's the WBC for you. Businessmen, cartel members, that's profit maximization. It's no longer about, to call them regulators of the sport. They don't understand what regulation means. They should all be exterminated in public.
Absolutely. By the way,
right.
a correction.
Go on.
Are you surprised the WBC haven't awarded Kell Brook the last night with the glass belt?
I'll tell you what, if anything, the WBC should pay for Kell Brook's his malnutrition, what he's been suffering for the last 7 months. The WBC should be taking him out to a restaurant and giving him 3-course meals every day for the next 4 months, because that fight was a fucking joke. And that's the reason why we devoted, I wouldn't say insufficient, but hardly any time to breaking down the fight and giving predictions, whatever else. It was routine prediction. It was clearly a case of Terence Crawford cherry picking a has-been. Now, Kell Brook has been extremely vocal that he's been itching for a big fight for so long after being in the wilderness for the last 3 years. Now, Kell Brook hasn't won a fight at welterweight since 2016 when he beat the Canadian Kevin Bizier, over 4 years ago. He hasn't made welterweight since 2017. Kell Brook's best victory was over half a decade ago against Sean Porter. So for the last 3 years, he's been fluctuating between 154 and 152. I don't know. Doesn't quite understand what weight category he wants to fight at, but he's still drawn back down to welterweight because of the money, because of the exposure of the weight division and the fact that he's a former world champion there. So it's a little bit more marketable in him trying to get fights, and he's been trying to negotiate these fights autonomously, even without Eddie Hearn as well. So Kell Brook has been, from his own anecdotes, has been relatively disciplined since February. So we're in November now, and a couple of days out from the weigh-in, he was still 4 pounds over. So it's taken Kell Brook over 7 months to get down to 147 pounds. So how much time is he actually devoting to sharpening his game, etc., looking at the skills? I understand that he's cutting the weight very, very slowly. Okay, understandable. But you're still spending a tremendous amount of time and energy in getting down to 147. And let's go to the weigh-in. Kell Brook, he looked like a 14-year-old Viet Cong rice farmer.
True.
As we were mentioning before, the eye is an extremely vascular organ. Look at the amount of fluid, look at the amount of blood flow, look at the amount of fat, protein. His eyes were case of now you see him, now you don't. They were sunken into his face, his cheekbones as well, and that was evident once he had, whether he even had rehydrated. Now we're going to give a shout out to Fight Film, who made a great distinction after the weigh-in, in that Kell Brook has been the one who's been busting his ass to make the weight. So you can imagine he is massively weight drawn, and the evidence from the weigh-in was, I think, corroborates that. But ironically, it is Terence Crawford, the one who is replenishing almost immediately, and he is consuming various different high sort of sugar-based drinks, Gatorade, etc., which is, I think, one of Pepsi's subsidiaries. So he's replenishing because he's obviously weight drawn as well, and he's a guy who came up from 135 pounds. But Kell Brook is not. He's not rehydrating straight after the weigh-in official, which, yeah, it's very surprising. And I understand that Kell Brook and Bud Crawford were engaged in some sort of debate, or they're basically having a slagging match, talking about the fight. The testosterone is pumping, and Kell Brook still wasn't consuming any drinks, any water. So whether Top Rank had imposed some sort of a rehydration, whether they had told Kell Brook that you couldn't rehydrate, it's an interesting question, because Kell Brook wasn't any mandatory challenger for the fight. He was stuck in the wilderness. So Terence Crawford clearly didn't have to select him. There was no pressure on him to do so. So Kell Brook had to pretty much play ball. He had no leverage against Terence Crawford. He's been chasing Amir Khan. Kell Brook, Bud Crawford clearly had some options. Maybe they weren't any significantly high value options, but he had options. So Kell Brook pretty much had to bend over and take it, comply to the will of Top Rank and Bud Crawford. So I'm not ruling out that possibility that despite it being for a WBO belt, Kell Brook, but he was clearly dehydrated for the fight, and you can see it as well. But in getting to the fight, and let's talk about the fight. Now, Kell Brook fundamentally and technically is a good boxer, and what he did well in this fight is that Crawford initially came out in the orthodox stance, and Kell Brook didn't allow Crawford to establish distance and range. He couldn't find a home for his jab, because what Kell Brook was doing was he was taking a step back and he was leaning back to slip Crawford's jab and counter with his own jab. And after countering with his jab, he would come in with his right hand as well. So for a fighter who had a massive disadvantage in reach, he was showing the better boxing ability, and Crawford was then fluctuating between orthodox and southpaw, trying to establish his jab, but Kell Brook wouldn't let him. Now, Crawford may not have come out in southpaw straight away, because the advantage the orthodox fighter has is not only a straight right hand, and Kell Brook has a very untelegraphed, beautiful straight right hand, but he also has a very good left hook, and that's an effective weapon against Crawford, who likes to pivot off to the right from the southpaw stance once he opens up his stride. So the danger signs were there, but Crawford had clearly done his homework. What Kell was also doing in the first round was not only countering Crawford's jab, leaning back, but he would also fire the jab to the body of Crawford as well. And for all the strength that Brook may have had, it was only going to be for a short-term period. And he was effective for 2 rounds. And I clearly saw a depreciation of his speed and his energy from the 3rd round. And that's what happens to a significantly weight-drawn fighter. A fighter who is clearly past his best. The reflexes have gone. He's fortified his leg and his upper body, but he didn't have any dexterity in his movement. he was pretty much a stationary target, moving his lead hand, his backhand, feinting upper body, but there's not a lot of significant movement with his legs to change the angles to get out of the center line. So when Crawford fluctuates between orthodox and southpaw, when he's in a southpaw position, he really does open up his stance and he becomes a lot more bouncier on his feet, and he starts fencing out with his lead hand. And you know when he's ready, when he's kind of warmed up and he's understood your patterns, he's done all of his reconnaissance, because the third one was all about a battle for lead hand control. And you do not want to get into a war of lead hand control with Crawford, especially Brook, because he doesn't have any exaggerated movements to get out of range. He can only lean back to slip the punches. He's not doing a great job of using a high guard to block the punches. So it's relatively easy. So Terence just has to use his greater athleticism and his explosiveness, and he's got the reach advantage. So you can see both of them fencing with their lead hands. Crawford is pretty square up, but he's got his lead foot on the outside, and he's really go and look at both of them in the center of the ring. Look at the stride length that Crawford has. He's massively opened up, but he's leaning on his front foot because he's trying to shift all of his power onto his lead hand that he's fencing with. So he's tapping, trying to get over Brook's lead hand. Brook is not allowing it, so he's trying to intercept. So he's not trying to allow Crawford to establish lead hand control, so then he can find a home for his jab because he's got a massive reach advantage. So he's tapping. He taps Brook's chest to try and distract him, get his hands down. Straight from there, he fires some sort of an improvised jab. You can't really say it's a hook, but because the arm is bent, but he's not hooking from right to left. It's just explosive, but because Crawford is actually pushing, he's tapping, he's pushing down Kell Brook's lead hand. Kell doesn't see the punch, so he's coming over his lead hand. He's doing what sometimes Vasily used to do when he was fighting at 126, pushing down their lead hand and coming back with his own right hand. And it's such a swift punch. You know, the velocity of the punch is just, Brook doesn't see it. He's using mainly his elbow in his wrist. There's not a lot of telegraph movements. You know, that punch, I don't think would have done a lot of damage to a hell of a lot of the other welterweights. I don't even think Amir Khan goes to the ropes with that punch as well. But Kell Brook's punch resistance is clearly finished. He goes into the ropes, and we've heard some people saying that why does the count commence from 5? Because as soon as Brook hits the ropes, the referee has to make a judgment call. Are the ropes keeping Brook from hitting the canvas? Once he's ascertained that, he starts the count in his head. Crawford comes immediately in, and he's got that killer instinct, so he wants to finish Kell off. The referee puts his arm on Brud. He's not allowing him to punch, so he's telling Bud, you know, he looks to Kell Brook's right hand side. He tells Bud to go to the neutral corner. So he's pointing to the neutral corner and he's saying to Bud, get over there. So then he turns back anti-clockwise all the way to Kell Brook. So during this whole process, he's counting in his head. So once he's back round, then he's looking at Brook. And once Brook is realized Brook is off the ropes, then he commences his count. So once Kell's indicated that he's okay to continue, Bud comes in the southpaw stance and he lands a couple of left hands, right hands. Hard to say whether Kell Brook is debilitated to the extent that he can't continue, but for me, I think it's a pretty premature stoppage. Kell doesn't really hit the canvas at all. You can't tell me that a modified jab, does all of the damage. To me, that's nonsense. Kell says to his corner after, what happened. I don't know. Pretty lackluster ending. But what are your thoughts, official?
Yeah. So first of all, you're spot on with your breakdown of the fight, because I saw many of those things myself. Now, right before going to fight, I just want to quickly go through the chat room and give the shout outs to Subhash Kanwar, aka Anfield, to Phil Obedo, Shep, Nes Mendoza, Precise, aka Fight Film, visit his channel. Bucks, Justin Marshall, Saint Brit Sports, That Guy, who else is there? Bucks, and Azzy, but also a new commentator named Adam Endombele, I think. So he's saying, wow, you're a real Bud hater. You've been slandering Bud since this channel started. Bud, pound for pound king. Accept it, enjoy it, and sit back and stop your toxic views on T-Bud King Crawford. Okay, so look, I mean, we are clearly giving all the fighters their respect they deserve, and Crawford certainly deserves a lot of respect for his skills that we are giving him. But come on, we are not living in a Neverland, in the same world you're living. You cannot ask us to speak in superlatives about him, because was Brook a 5-star opponent for Crawford? In fact, watch his whole welterweight career, and even at 140, his best opponent to this day is Victor Postol. And so it says something about the lack of the real opposition. I'm not saying that he hasn't beat solid fighters, but most of them were just about that, So yeah, we cannot talk about him in superlatives if there are real concerns about his opposition. Now he brought it up on himself. If he was fighting the best possible opponents, now the story may be different if he was able to do it. But Kell Brook, he's been having. He had his both eye sockets broken for years, and the first real punch, that jab or a hook that landed at him in the last 10 seconds of the third round really shook Kell Brook bad. So okay, if in your world that's a great punch resistance, I'm okay with it, but don't expect me to lie about it and talk about him in superlatives.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean
yeah,
the incompetence of these people, official, is staggering. But I don't want to get into obscenities with Adam. As we reiterate, momentum coming into the fight is for me is one of the key components in adjudicating whether a fighter has a decent chance at the championship level. But when Kell Brook hasn't accrued a victory at 147 pounds for 4 years, then is he clearly a viable fighter?
exactly. I mean, that was his choice of opponent, and if there is a reason to criticize it, why why I cannot just do that. I mean, there's an objective reason to criticize it. You know, to talk about Kell Brook being fucked up from his fights against Golovkin and even against Errol Spence. So and he hasn't been down to welterweight division in years. So if that's a 5-star opponent for you, I don't know what to tell you. But going back to fight itself, yeah, like you said, you gave a great breakdown. And look, I don't want to repeat your points, and I agree on all of them. I just may add that during the first two rounds, okay, Bud was observing Kell Brook's movements, his reaction, etc. And he was losing those 2 rounds in the process. Not a big deal. He's a notoriously slow starter. I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it still shows you that when you put at least for the beginning of the fight, when there is a really good, technically, good opponent, he may get in trouble. But anyways, he did really well. He was setting up that right hand really good. So yeah, those 2 rounds he lost them clearly in the process. I liked Brook's straight punches, his jab. Like you said, he was leaning back and countering, coming back with his jab, with his counter jab. He was also landing a lot of good solid jabs on his body. That straight hand and then weaving underneath it caught Bud a couple of times, but since the very end of the second round, when Bud Crawford switched his stance, I would agree with the commentators that he did it so he could negate Brook's jab and his left hook, and with one of them he caught him in the second round, I think, hooking of the jab, caught him really good. I think that was the punch that hurt Crawford's eye. But yeah, what I saw about his jab or a hook that he was countering Brook with, he was throwing it kind of, I don't know, it looked like a jab, but he was turning it on he was turning his elbow, so
Yes. Yeah.
from his elbow down. And what he was trying to do once he switched to the southpaw stance, he was inviting Brook to throw his jab so he could measure him and come up the top with it. And he was doing the similar thing Brook was doing while Brook was leaning back and coming back with his jab. Crawford, he was inviting Brook to throw the jab from the southpaw stance and leaning back over his back foot, and what he very often does in his fights, especially from the southpaw stance, when he's not only leaning back but he's also going low on his back foot, and being that he has a long arm reach, he's still able to catch people with that right hook. And he was looking to come over the top of Kell Brook's jab, and he was doing really nicely. And we were able to see in the very sequence that led up to the knockdown, where Kell Brook went to the ropes just before him being sent to the ropes, or the fight being stopped. I cannot remember exactly, but he was how do you say it? He was using his right lead hand, Crawford, that is. He was fencing with it. First, he was feinting it, from the low position. then he I don't know how to say it. Then he raised he started raising his right lead arm, lead hand, lead glove, keeping it really above at a very highly, fencing with it from a very high position. Uh, his lead glove being higher than Kell Brook's lead glove, and that's how once Kell Brook decided to throw 1-2. The moment he threw that one before being able to throw the straight right, he just snapped his elbow of his already extended right arm and caught him on that left side, just below his eye, the one that was broken in the Spence fight. And I certainly want to do some film studies on him in the future, because he really does some things that really impressed me, and I enjoy seeing some of his skills that are, like I said, very good. And it would be interesting for me, to do it with you, to do the breakdown of some of his moves, skills, or his deficiencies on one of the future shows. But yeah, like I said, one of the very first right hooks, or however you want to call it, that landed on that eye socket really shook Kell Brook bad. Go look back at the third round, the last 10 seconds. He really shook him with it, and from that on, it was really clear that Kell Brook is not able to take punches the same way like he used to, because I have to give him credit. The way he was able to take some of Golovkin's punches, and even right after that fight against Spence, while already being broken down by Golovkin, he was still showing some resilience. But it's clear to me that it's not the same fighter cannot take punch the same way. He Me personally, I do not think that the stoppage was premature. I think that Kell Brook not not gave up, but yeah, he was not willing to take those punches anymore. So that's kind of my view on the fight.
I mean, that's what being weight drawn is. What is directly impacted is your punch resistance, your legs, your power is gone. So
Yeah,
it has a detrimental impact. It's multifaceted, and if you're if you're having to use about 7 months just to make the weight, then clearly you shouldn't be operating at 147 pounds. And we were talking about this before, that he looked a lot healthier for me at 160 pounds. He looked strong, healthy. But people always go down to he is only 5'9", whatever. But what I want to talk about very briefly is the limitations of Kell Brook from a defensive aspect. Now, when he's taking step backs, either to slip a punch and then try and counter, that's more advantageous. When he's leaning back, although he may be able to counter, but when Kell is actually leaning back, and I saw it at the end of the second and the third round, when he's leaning back, he becomes even more stationary because he's not using his feet to get out of range, so he's still pretty much in the center line. You
exactly.
guys try leaning back and move side to side. You can't. It neutralizes your movements in either side. So when you're leaning back, you can't do absolutely fuck all to get out of the way of a punch, especially a punch that is coming to your midsection. So it's it's not the ideal position you want to be in, especially if you're not going to use your gloves to try and deflect the punches that are coming. So it is a technical deficiency that Kell's had for a long time, but that's the end of, that's the end of his career. He shouldn't have been in the ring. He made the fight autonomously, $2 million. I don't know what the hell these people are talking about, but it was a cherry pick against a has-been. There's no other way to articulate that fight. You only have got to look at the betting odds, the over and the under position. I predicted 6 rounds knockout, so not far off. 1-17 against Bud Crawford for the victory against a viable welterweight. That's ridiculous odds. So I don't know what the hell these people are talking about. Now, official in the post-fight interview, noticed that Bob Arum was very quick to intervene when the ESPN commentary team were they were being a bit inquisitive to find out how on earth is Terence Crawford going to make these fights against, the PBC fighters. Terence has he's already flirted with the idea that he may have to leave Top Rank to achieve those goals. The rumor has it that his contract elapses next October, so he's a free agent after that. I'm not too sure that I haven't seen any evidence that can corroborate that, but that's what somebody advised me. Fair enough. We'll just use that for the sake of arguments. Now, I do have a bit of sympathy with Bud Crawford because, as I've indicated before, I don't think Errol Spence has been interested in the fight. And the reason why I say that is because Errol Spence fought Mikey Garcia. And I repeat, he fought Mikey Garcia, a former super featherweight. Now, if Errol Spence is clearly fighting those guys, is that really a legacy fight? No, it's a money fight. It's about trying to get Mikey Garcia's fans and trying to become a pay-per-view star. Now, Errol Spence is the first person to make the demarcation that Crawford is on the other side of the street and he needs to come over onto this side. And we've talked repeatedly about how the PBC is not making fights with any other promoters. They've clearly got an in-house pay-per-view model that they're pursuing. So they try. It's trying to become a monopoly, a stranglehold, and it's a toxic component for boxing. But they've got free will to do that because they can guarantee their fighters, reasonable compensation by completely changing their model from being on free TV to a pay-per-view model. Now, the pay-per-views haven't been successful with the Jamal Charlos, etc., but that's the strategy that they're pursuing. Fine. Now, Errol Spence makes that demarcation with Terence Crawford, but then Errol Spence puts out these videos talking about how he's exactly the same size as Saul Alvarez, and he's talked repeatedly about fighting Canelo Alvarez. Now, official, correct me if I'm wrong, but Saul Alvarez at the time was fighting on DAZN. So that's perfectly acceptable for him to be talking about fighting a DAZN fighter, but he's not even remotely interested when it comes to talking about a free belt unification with Terence Crawford, who's an ESPN fighter. So Errol Spence is clearly being selective in his arguments, and I don't think Errol Spence has entertained the notion of fighting Terence Crawford from the outside. Money is clearly his proclivity. Look at the fights that he's been fighting with since. Apart from Sean Porter, now he's fighting Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia's who's pretty much Al Heyman's beloved son. Has had opportunity after opportunity, loses his belt, gets a championship fight straight away, fights washed up, super, lightweights for the WBC belt as well. So Danny Garcia has done absolutely fuck all at 147 pounds. His power is clearly not evident at 147 pounds as well. So Errol Spence is just going through the round robin of all of these other PBC fighters. Don't be surprised if it's Yordanis Ugas next as well. He's talked about Manny Pacquiao as well, fighting him. A good strategic argument because Manny Pacquiao does hold a championship belt. But it's the money fight, the money appeal. And no surprise that Mikey Garcia has also talked about fighting Pacquiao as well. So money is clearly the proclivity with all of these PBC pussy-ass fighters, man. And so Bud Crawford now, he may be inclined to move to not re-sign with Top Rank, but Bob Arum is trying to entertain the idea about finding Manny Pacquiao in the Middle East for an exorbitant amount of money. But when Manny Pacquiao was talking about the fight, Bud Crawford wanted Manny Pacquiao to come down to 140 pounds, and he clearly priced himself out of the argument. So a lot of two-faced anecdotes from a lot of these fighters, official. Very difficult to understand their clear intent. A lot of smoke schemes, pricing themselves out of fights. A lot of bitch ass tactics going on in this welterweight division. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely corruption. Look, just the way Errol Spence is talking about a possible Canelo fight from the safe distance. The same way both of those fighters, I mean, all the fighters are trying to have the safest possible fights, and somehow one day, up till somehow one day, they're able to have a big money fight. And I've been frustrated with this fact for a long time. You've been hearing me talk about it all the time. I mean, look just the difference in between Pacquiao's career, the way he was handling his career, versus how Errol Spence, for example, or even Bud Crawford, for that matter, because they are trying to get themselves in the fights that are safe enough, but also trying to make those fights bigger than they are, while in reality fighting the safe fights up till the moment comes where they're able to face a big money guy, and that is usually near the end of their professional careers. And both of them are in their 30s. Crawford 34. Man, by that time both Pacquiao and even Mayweather had a lot of fights on their resumes. So it's just disgusting. I don't know what to say about it.
Yeah, it's not really a division that both of us have been too excited about. I couldn't give a fuck really what happens. But one thing I will say, it's something I've always maintained, for me, Bud Crawford murders Errol Spence. Pretty, all these pretty misconceptions that I've had, that people in the chat seem to think that I have about Bud Crawford. I've always maintained from the start that Errol Spence is an unbelievably overrated fighter. The two redeeming qualities that Errol Spence has is he's big and he's durable. That's it. I don't see no boxing skill and ability. The penny may have dropped with him, but how much damage is that inflicted on his body? He doesn't really respect the sport, He's a a chosen one from Floyd Mayweather, and you can clearly see that the Floyd Mayweather influence on him. The same thing that Tank Davis is now voicing throughout as well, is once they become pay-per-view fighters, then they can use that argument to try and extricate themselves from fights. They can clearly say that, hold on, he's not a pay-per-view fighter, I'm a pay-per-view fighter. You know, I'm the A side, he's never even thought on it. Nah, I'm not going to fight him. There's no money involved. It's the same. It's just a replication of that same tactic that Floyd did throughout his career. That he did it beautifully to Ronald Winky Wright. You start calling him out. Winky Wright says, yeah, I'll fight you. And then Floyd fights Shamber Mitchell, comes up with all that bitch-ass nonsense. And that's where the beef between Floyd and Larry Merchant started, because Larry Merchant called Floyd out and saying, look, you're calling out Winky Wright. And now, you know, what happened? You know, you lost your balls and you fought Shamber Mitchell instead. And Floyd just sort of smiled it off. But Winky Wright was, I'm at 154. I'll come down to 147 and I'll beat your ass. But nah, Floyd never even mentioned Ronald Winky Wright ever again. So yeah, these guys.
Yes, Floyd thought that Winky Wright was bluffing, you know, until he was there, you know, asking him for the fight. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what people are going to realize with this whole USADA thing, that, you know, that Floyd has used and now Al Heyman has used. Let me give you a little bit of proper knowledge, because this is an area I understand. When a fighter pays 300% of what the fees are for drug testing, you've got to understand that USADA doesn't offer multi-tier drug testing. Can you imagine USADA being requisitioned in court? There's a summons, and the prosecutors are saying to USADA, well, why didn't you find anabolic steroids? And the USADA official says to them, well, if you wanted us to find anabolic steroids, that's tier 1. You've got to pay for tier 1. We're only tier 2. We're only $200,000. We don't look at them. We only look at peptides. We don't look at anabolics. Can you imagine a drug testing agency using that sort of argument in court? Their whole science, their whole business is to detect substances that are undetectable. That's their whole science. So when a fighter is paying substantially over the amount for a drug testing program that is only one tier to all, you know, the red flags get raised very high. It's what that is about is Floyd was using USADA, and Floyd could specify to USADA the exact dates in which blood and urine, or either blood or urine, would be extracted from both fighters. That's what it was all about, paying them exorbitant amounts. It was nothing to do with a higher tier of drug testing. Floyd knew the dates. And naturally, those dates can't be incorporated into a contract, because he'll be taken to court. He'll have no validity, you know. So that's how these people are able to get around drug testing. That's how Floyd Mayweather was able to get around drug testing. So whenever the drug testing agencies were able to do random testing, and Floyd may have slipped it, well, then he pulls his monopoly get out of the jail card. He's got his therapeutic use exemption, and he can get a retrospective waiver to any substance that he's taken during the ensuing period. And, you know, Nevada State have got many cases of his testosterone levels being well over and above the baseline levels, and, you know, using intravenous drips to rehydrate himself, which is clearly illegal as well. So these people can fool, you know, the abundance of stupidity that is in the boxing community, but you don't fool people like me who understand it and have read the criterias and have read the compliance statement and have read the protocols and the pricing of all of these agencies and the kind of testing that they offer as well. And USADA's drug testing regimen is not as widespread as what the German Athletic Commission uses is what, VADA do as well. They don't use carbon isotope drug testing as well, which is known to be the best as well. So plus they can actually give redacted files straight to the commission, so they don't have to give a fully comprehensive report to the State Athletic Commission. Legally, they're not obliged to do so. So they can extricate themselves from all sorts of stipulations. So it's a fully corrupt. So USADA have got absolutely no authenticity. You've only got to look at what other drug testing agencies, and you've only got to look at the people that have certainly in track and field, cycling, US postal riders that have eventually they've disclosed all of their drug testing, all under USADA as well. How they were able to get around USADA protocols for a number of years. So don't want to focus a little bit too much on that.
No worry. In fact, I have just really quick points to make about USADA or whatever. So even before Floyd was able to, to have more influence on USADA, remember the 24/7 show for the episode for his fight against what's his name, Shane Mosley. They were at Floyd Mayweather's house, and so he was waiting for 6 hours to go to pee. They were at his house, the agents of USADA, waiting for him to collect his urine sample, and he was saying that he's drained from the training, that he has to wait because he has no fluid in him to give them the sample. So he made them wait for 5 or 6 hours, and we know that for some illegal substances, in order for the ratio to drop to the more normal levels, you have to wait for a couple of hours to give them a sample. So that's one point. The other point is, in fact, I just want to give a big shout out to the OG Thunderdome Boxing, Anthony, before the Maypac fight. He made a video about USADA and comparing their rates, their prices, USADA with WADA. And back in the day, I think that WADA was it was maybe 4K or 10K, something like that, the price, their price for the testings. And at the same time, Anthony was comparing just what you said, or what each of those anti-doping organizations are able to find and detect with their tests. So that's all I wanted to say.
Official. I mean, USADA is testing at the Olympic level various sports. How is it going to offer a redacted service for boxing? Does that make any sense whatsoever?
Well, no.
So you're only going to test for what, 20% of all substances, and you're going to leave 80% out because it's based on price. So a young boxer coming up he's just turned professional after a year in the amateur program. Clearly, he doesn't have the revenue. Say he hasn't even got a major promoter. He's an independent free agent. When the contracts are drawn up, the commission says to him that you've got to find your own drug testing. You've got to find, or we'll appoint drug testing for you. And he has minimal income, so he can only go to the very lowest, poorest tier of drug testing, Whereas his opponent is able to, maybe a more established fighter, and he's able to get VADA testing for his own. Now, clearly we're going to have an imbalance of the techniques that are used by both such agencies. So you're going to have different results. It will create a legal fiasco, fight after fight after fight. It is not possible because it doesn't exist. It is a universally available Olympic-style drug testing based on one homogeneous price. That's what it is. If you're paying over and above the odds, then clearly you are employing them for special privileges, special conditions. And when Floyd actually says to Manny Pacquiao, why don't you allow drug testing agencies to extract blood 14 days? He's actually given them an explicit day. So Floyd clearly knows the dates that are going to be incorporated into a contract. There is no random drug testing. That's a complete load of nonsense. But we're past that era. Thank God for that.
I just want to make another point. Again, Thunderdome Boxing again. So what he also said, I remember back in the day, one of his videos, he nicely said that back in the day, while all the PBC fighters and Al Heyman were still working for with Oscar and Golden Boy promotions, while they were still fighting under the Golden Boy banner. That's when, in fact, the Golden Boy started using VADA for their drug testing, but then they started catching a lot of fighters who were, working with Al Heyman, who were managed by Al Heyman, and that's why after that, shortly after that, they switched to USADA.
Yeah. Convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Official, before we get on to a lot of the work you've been undertaking, let's just talk briefly about the news. Canelo Alvarez, Deontay Wilder. Now, let's get into Deontay Wilder now, because a lot of people still seem to think that just because he's trying to escalate some sort of proceedings against Tyson Fury, that he has any leg to stand on. No, Deontay Wilder is going to dispute resolution now. And what that essentially is say that you own your own property, and so does your next door neighbor, and you decide to play your music a little bit too loudly. So your next door neighbor makes a complaint to the local council. Now, does your council really have any sort of legislative powers to do anything against, to try and evict you from your property, to repossess your house? No, they can't, but they can at least contact you. And so you can acknowledge that maybe that you're playing your music a little bit too loudly, but ultimately nothing is gonna happen. And that's what Deontay Wilder is clearly doing now. Bob Arum is a Harvard lawyer, a former special prosecutor. He's fully conversant with the law. You really think that he's going to contravene a contract to put Tyson Fury into a fight against, a voluntary in Ajit Kabahal, and risk a lawsuit, meaning that that Tyson Fury would forfeit his contract, would be in breach of a contract, and therefore pay significant amount of financial penalties? Clearly not. Deontay Wilder, who's pretty much focused on some of the most nonsensical excuses that I've ever seen in the history of boxing, to try and justify for the beatings that he's taken, and that the bubble has blown. All of the superficiality that is exemplified throughout his career. But still, there's a large contingent of Wilder fans who clearly cannot accept what took place in the ring, and disseminating all of these ridiculous, conspiracy theories. Now, if there was any veracity in any of them, then wouldn't they have been submitted to a federal court instead of an arbitration, which is like a dispute resolution, who don't have any sort of powers to put a fighter back? They can't make any sort of. It's just Mickey Mouse, people. It's just a complete waste of time and money. Wilder doesn't have any leg to stand on. Tyson Fury now is not even entertaining a third fight, and rightly so, because of the condemnation of Deontay Wilder, and he's basically taken counsel with the LDBC in trying to proliferate all of these conspiracy videos, etc. It's one of the biggest jokes I've seen in boxing. Wilder is clearly showing what all of the Black Lives Matter show is, that it's victim mentality.
Oh yeah,
the same thing that a lot of these residents in the United States are showing as well, and it's kind of pathetic. You're blaming policies, whatever, which simply do not exist, for your own shortcomings. It's almost laughable, and I'm glad Tyson Fury is not even entertaining a third fight, and he's saying he will not fight it, and he doesn't need to. Wilder is finished now, so it's no coincidence that the WBC is now announcing this new weight category. And for me, it's Wilder's best chance to get back into world championship contention. Why not go into this hybrid cruiserweight heavyweight division, up to 230 pounds, perfect, which is perfect for him. But if Wilder was really a man, he would go back and he'd fight a Dillian Whyte or a Robert Helenius, beat those fighters. You might get back into championship contention, fight the winner of Povetkin and Deontay Wilder, accept your loss. And but he doesn't want to do that. It is excuses, wrongdoings, nonsensical conspiracy theories, all sorts of excuses under the sun, which make absolutely no excuse. Blaming Mark Breland, there is no threshold to the kind of pathetic behavior that is exemplified. And fuck Deontay Wilder. I hope he doesn't get back into championship contention at all. Doesn't deserve it.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest frauds in the heavyweight division of all time. 10 defenses, but who the fuck did you fight? Absolutely no one. And we'll talk about Canelo Alvarez as well. Apparently,
sorry, corruption. I would just like to say a couple of words on Wilder as well. Yeah. So first of all, how convenient that it was WBC talking about this new weight class, the bridger weight. But yeah, look, if from at least from what we know that there was a rematch clause, but it was not a rematch clause cannot be undefinitive, so they had their the time limit to make that rematch. And from what I'm able to understand, that time limit for the rematch passed. If not, then why not just simply sue Tyson Fury for breaking the contract and trying to fight Kabayel or fighting anyone else but him, if the rematch clause is still in order. So
Yeah, Deontay Wilder, he basically elapsed the time duration that was imposed in the contract. Not Tyson Fury, who was indicating that he was ready to fight, but they didn't
exactly,
any such. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So he kept his mouth shut all this time. How convenient for him to not talk, not address. He was not being seen in public or not talking about the fight, not trying to talk about the fight since the rematch ended, and now from nowhere he's appearing asking for a rematch. Well, if Tyson Fury is at fault and he's supposed to give you a rematch, then sue him. If not, it only proves you being that instead of suing Fury, he's only complaining and calling him out on social media. It's a clear proof to me that he's trying to save his face. If not, he would he would have already contacted his attorneys and began the process against Fury. Just the same way he does with that loaded glove bullshit. If it was really the case, then they would be fighting, in the court instead of doing it on social media, man. So it's a proof that loaded glove bullshit is just another bullshit, another nonsense. But that's all
official.
what I wanted to say.
Even with the drink situation, talking about how his water was potentially contaminated. Clearly, these neolithically incompetent Wilder and his fanboys don't realize that if a fighter and the trainer can bring their own water to a fight, then clearly Ricardo Mayorga, his drinks bottle would be full of tequila or whiskey.
Yeah, yeah, and
They have,
also
they have no such jurisdiction for the drinks and the gloves as well. The gloves are sealed. They only get the gloves tabulated to them the day of the fight with a commissioner present who's there for the entire wrapping and the gloving. So, yeah, carry on.
no, I only wanted to add about him, him and his coach, firing Mike Brilland. Look, I'm doesn't matter who's right, and in my opinion, Wilder is clearly wrong because Brilland saved his ass from carrying
Absolutely.
serious injuries. But look, on the other hand, I understand if he lost the trust in Brilland, if there's if their relationship is that broken, then even despite Wilder being wrong, I understand his move to fire Brilland, because look, if he's telling him that he shouldn't be fighting Fury or any serious opponent, then and Wilder still wants to do it, then there's no need to keep Brilland in his corner in that sense. But yeah, he's a complete nutcase, Wilder.
Official.
That's all.
Deontay Wilder explicitly accused Mark Breland of contaminating his water. Now, if Mark
Oh
Breland,
yeah,
that is defamation of character, Mark Breland can take this motherfucker to court. There's no evidence
exactly.
to back any of Wilder's accusations, but Mark Breland, from what we can gauge, has humility. He has an affinity with Deontay Wilder, despite what this defeat has done to him. Wilder, for any equity that he may have had with boxing fans, if it's a very slim percentage, he's lost all of that. He's made an absolute embarrassment out of himself. We know he was an embarrassment anyway as a fighter, but now it's widespread, and it's to the casual fans as well, because he was trying to promote himself, market himself on a hell of a lot of television shows, and the criticism is widespread from all sectors of television and media and radio. Are any promoters even going to entertain the notion of getting their fighters in the ring with Deontay Wilder? You know, they're going to be extremely hesitant, and rightly so. A sad demise to a very sad career.
Absolutely.
Made a lot of money, conned a lot of people, getting 20 million or whatever else, you know, clearly Fox Sports, BT Sports, massively overpaid both fighters. They never recouped the pay-per-view. That's heavyweight. That's heavyweight for you. That's the reason why Official and myself don't really get focused.
But corruption, sorry, but just one more thing. Yeah, so the first thing that I did when I saw that news on YouTube about him saying that Brilliant spiked his drink, my first immediate thought and the first comment that I wrote was, well, you had the anti-doping test even after the fight. So if that was the case, if that was the case, you would be positive. But it's just another proof that he's just trying to save his face and hype himself up, and having the LDBC retards behind him. But Overhand in the comments is saying Brilliant should sue him. He's probably losing clients because of those comments. Now, what I suppose Overhand is talking about is the supposed comment that Brilliant made on Twitter by saying that, yeah, I pissed, I spiked his drink, I pissed in it. It was, I just want to address it, to say that it was a Photoshop, not really a comment from Brilliant. But that's all.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Brilliant will be losing clients, because there's going to be a high degree of authentic sympathy for him.
Yeah.
In this case, so I don't think his reputation is damaged in any way, because he did the correct thing in pulling out his fighter who was taking a systematic beating from basically the opening bell. Now, Wilder's punches were landing on Fury, but Fury was able to absorb them, is because the punishment he was inflicting on Wilder's punches didn't have the same menace they did from the first fight. He was exhausted, he was depleted, he was drained, his power had been sapped by the punishment that was inflicted upon him. But anyway, yeah, Tyson Fury, Ajit Kabahal. Fury doesn't need him. Fury is talking all about him and Joshua. For Fury, that's the correct thing. Forget about the third fight. And very quickly, we'll talk about Canelo Alvarez. From what we're hearing, him and Callum Smith is going to take place. Callum Smith, the World Boxing Super Series super middleweight champion, WBA, Ring Magazine. Now, Caleb Plant was apparently offered the fight twice, and we don't know what really happened behind the circles, but Caleb Plant didn't accept or decline the fight for whatever reason. But I think it kind of reinforces the point we made all along, that the PBC really do not want to do business with anybody else. It's kind of annoying, yet the PBC are very quick to criticize all of the other fighters and all of the other promoters. Now we can understand that a lot of fighters don't want to be shortchanged or A-sided by Canelo because they don't want to get fucked on the scorecards, and that's a perfectly viable argument. We already talk about that, but now that Canelo has managed to extricate himself from his contract with Golden Boy, we can see he's clearly still negotiating with DAZN, and that's they've been able to Canelo's been able to bypass De La Hoya, and he can say to DAZN, look, the 5 million that you were paying Oscar De La Hoya, now you're clearly saving that. So if you're still able to offer the monies that you were offering before, then I'm more than happy to negotiate directly with you. Because is PBC really going to be paying the sort of money that DAZN were offering Canelo Alvarez? You know, an incentivized contract, pre-scripted purses that were not dependent on any gate revenue or how many additional subscribers that DAZN were able to attract upon announcing that Canelo would fight on the platform. It was predetermined. It was fully independent of them. And Canelo knows that Fox Sports or even Matchroom UK or ESPN, they're clearly not paying fight purses above 20 million. DAZN are the only ones who are doing that at the moment. So we're not surprised that Canelo is still doing business with DAZN. And if Caleb Plant is not going to agree to a fight despite being offered the fight twice, then fighting Callum Smith, well, it's another champion. It's the Ring magazine. I would much rather it being David Benavidez, who I think is the most viable in that division. But official, you can't really argue with the fight that's happened.
Yeah, you know what? Look, first of all, I'm wondering about his. I guess since he stopped working with Oscar de La Hoya, that he surely renegotiated the terms with DAZN. So I'm wondering about that, but I'm not sure. But
Yeah,
anyways,
we don't know. They've not even mentioned that a new contract has been drafted. It may just be a fight per fight basis, but still honoring the terms of the original contract between DAZN and Golden Boy. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, very probable. But yeah, look, to answer your question, sorry for a second. Sorry for that. Yeah, so look, the first time Caleb Plant refused the fight, I was totally on his side because it was just after the Kovalev fight, and he was trying to do the same thing to Plant, the same thing he did to Kovalev. So I was totally on Caleb Plant's side. And even now, I'm reserved because, yeah, you're completely right. There is no doubt, looking at the history of PBC and their fighters, that they're always refusing to make those fights with other promoters and the other networks. That's for sure. But at the same time, this was another offer on a short notice. Okay, this time Caleb Plant wasn't fighting. He wasn't fighting recently. It's not like he would, he would need time to replenish himself and then begin extremely short training camp like Kovalev did, but have to go through. But I guess I'm kind of, neutral for now because I don't really know what to think about it. Because on one side, you're totally right about um, what the PBC fighters tend to do in whenever we mention this type of fights, but still, being that it was another offer on a short notice, only a month before the fight was supposed to happen, I'm still undecided. I'm not sure what to think about it. Now, the Caleb Plant fight, look, I guess I'm okay with it, but you know that I never rated the 168 division, except for Canelo, who's really the best there. But I'm just not excited about it, especially the way Caleb looked in his last fight against, in his fight against John Ryder. uh, I'm not interested about it. So, like you said, I would be much more interested by the Benavides fight. Also, look, I would be more than okay with Caleb Plant fight, although I would still probably favor Canelo, and I'm saying it from the top of my dome. But yeah, it would be a very good fight, Caleb Plant. Other than that, my first choice for Canelo at 168 would be Bivol, who, yeah, he's a light heavyweight, but he already expressed his willingness to fight Canelo at 168 even years ago. And maybe it would be, bad for Bivol to drop down to 168, but I'm not sure because he's not a big lightweight. I think that he's a very small, a light heavyweight, sorry, and I think that he should be able to make the weight rather easily. So that's the fight that I would like to see for Canelo. Okay, even better than that, it would be to fight them at 175, either Bivol or Beterbiev. But it will never happen. But yeah, I, I, I'm not cheating on the Callum Smith fight, but I'm just not really interested in it.
I hear what you're saying, and there is a degree of that as well because Canelo. We know we broke down his career, and he is a fraudulent hype job, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Who's manipulated the odds on fights, so effectively becoming fixed fights, pretty much throughout his entire career. We go back to the earlier episode. We spent pretty much an hour and a half going through it in order, and we know that with Artur Beterbiev, Canelo vacated that belt, as I mentioned, before Beterbiev even finished his morning Quran Perez. He didn't want absolutely anything to do with him, and if it was a bad legacy, then he would have stayed there and he would have fought Beterbiev. But nah, you're just cherry picking a fighter, a veteran, a 38-year-old, whatever, who's not able to. Cafe Duva wasn't able to extend the fight after January to give him a sufficient enough rest. We spoke about that. It's all manipulating the odds. You're prying on the financial vulnerability of Sergey as well, knowing that he's been fucked over by Rock Nation and Andre Ward in the past. No coincidence that they try and manufacture, some sort of lawsuits against him as well, trying to make him into a vulnerable position so that he needs the money. And it's kind of disgusting what Canelo does, but we don't know if whether Canelo even proposed to DAZN independently that what about Avni Yildirim and the WBC belt? I'm sure that would have been Canelo's first choice, let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure DAZN reaffirmed their original position, get the fuck out of here. You're not fighting no dry cleaner. So, and we know Canelo clearly watched the John Ryder and the Callum Smith fight, and he knew that John Ryder should be the WBA super middleweight champion. So Canelo knows Callum Smith is massively overrated and fortunate to be a champion, and doesn't really have any ability, at that short range, mid range, where Canelo is effective with his combination and his body punching. So Callum Smith is going to be dragged up to the United States and he's going to get obliterated. So, yeah, Canelo be a unified champion, Ring Magazine as well. just adding to his long roster of superficial championships. So anyway, enough of the bullshit in the sport. Let's get down to one of the best fighters of the last decade, and as far as I'm concerned, one of the best middleweights of all time in terms of the skills and the ability. But he's been tarnished throughout his career, misunderstood, avoided by pretty much everybody from Germany, and once it's been in the United States as well. Official, you've done a tremendous amount of work recently elucidating on the technique, the skills, the in-ring ability, the IQ, the ring generalship, and the defense, because as far as I'm concerned, ring generalship is an overrated aspect. It pales into significance compared to defense, because you can be the ring general, but if you're not throwing or landing any punches, then it doesn't. What does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. But with defense, you're using far more aspects to avoid punches. You're using your guard positions, different guard positions. You're using head movement. You're using feints. You're using upper body movement. You're using legs. You're slipping. You're rolling. You're riding punches. But defense, sadly, is not even considered one of the vital components. And people think ring generalship is just far more important, which I think is absolutely absurd. Primarily because American boxing doesn't really have fighters who exemplify, good defense at all. It's an art that a lot of the fighters, certainly from Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan is more of a Mexican style, but certainly Ukraine and Russia and Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, that they pay a great deal of attention to. That's why their boxers are able to win 3-round championships consecutively, because of the defense that their fighters have. So, official, we'll take it away with your section on Gennadiy Golovkin.
Yeah, so, but first of all, I would like to ask you, do you want us also to go through the videos that I already published? Because I have 4 of those, plus I have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 short videos ranging from between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So yeah, I guess we can start with those that I already published on the other channel.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with, let me first of all share the screen. Let's start with, with the simplest one. Just give me a second. And now I'm sharing the screen. When I press the play button, can you just tell me if the video is choppy or not? Okay.
Fine. It's perfect.
Oh, okay, nice, because I was worried, sometimes my internet connection, but anyways, yeah, so this first video that we just saw, it's nothing complicated, but boxing isn't anyways all about being complicated. I mean, we are not all about necessarily showing and discussing the most complex moves, anything. So this was really simple from Golovkin, something that is very often used in the ex-Soviet school of boxing, changing the levels. Just like they tend to feint up and down jabs, especially in the amateurs. So that's it. I don't know if you want to say anything about it. Do you want me to replay it? Do you want to address it, or to go to the next one?
Nah, go for the next one.
Okay, hold on. Okay. Share screen. Okay, so now this one is about two things, about Golovkin's defense, but also because, we've been saying all the time that in boxing there is no perfect move. So every action has a reaction. There's always a way to answer to no matter what move, but there's always a way to answer it if the opponent is good enough. And so this is something that I'm about to show you the video which shows you that Golovkin has really good defensive moves, but this one was exploited by Derevyanchenko in their fight. So let's play it. Yeah, so just like we saw, he tends to crouch at mid or short range. Very often he blocks the first punch or defense from a first punch of his opponent's combo by being stationary and either blocking it, parrying it, or slipping, doesn't matter, and then move out of range. But his crouching position, like you saw, he's defending with his guard. He's defending everything that's in front of his opponent. He's the front part of his body, his chin, but the way he's crouching and leaving his lever behind him, it was accessible for Derevyanchenko's left hook that hurt him. Okay, let's go to the third video. So once again, the same defense, where he's first catching the opponent's punch, then getting out of range. Let's see it. Yeah, so that was another short video. I just want to add something about it. Oh, well, like I wrote in the subtitles of the video. Um, Golovkin, a lot of people were talking about the way first Marty Rosen and then Steve Rolls were able to snap his head back with their jabs, but that's because at the end of their combos, when Golovkin was expecting a circular punch, uh, either uppercuts or hooks, and if those were the ending punches of their combos, he would be able to evade them by just pulling his upper body from his front over to his back foot or by stepping back. But as you saw, jabbing and stepping back, stepping forward towards Golovkin, sorry, is the right answer in those situations. Now, I'm gonna play the very last video that I uploaded on the other channel, and I'm really hoping everyone is going to be able to see it, because it's the way, Gennadiy is boxing in the pocket, and his underrated ring IQ and defense on the inside, as well as him setting up his punches on the inside. So let's see it.
Yeah, that's a false assumption that that, that he that he's inept at fighting on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, there are even videos from many years ago, him on YouTube a while back when he was still training with Abel Sanchez, um, teaching the other professional boxers, high-level boxers, how to, position themselves on the inside, etc. A very known video, but anyways,
It's amazing and official the amount of premeditated sort of consumed hatred that a lot of these so-called boxing fans have have had and have always displayed for Golovkin. That is, just clouded their ability to just try and look at his skills without any sort of vitriol. Just appreciate him for what he is. But not only are they totally stupid in trying to absorb or try and decipher what he does in the ring, but they're simply oblivious to it because they don't want to. They've built up that hatred, and that is it. They're not prepared to reconcile their differences in any way. Sad, pathetic human beings. These people must lead very sad lives because all they do is just bitch, hate, and criticize. Probably don't have wives, girlfriend, children, miserable lives, no jobs, low paid, poor housing, victims. Sad. But please proceed.
yeah, okay, so let's see this inside fighting moment from Gennadiy.
talk us through that sequence, official.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, well, they're both joking for the position, and Derevyanchenko is sliding from having his. Let me hit the post and go back to it. Look at this very moment here. He has the right side of his face on Golovkin's left shoulder.
Yep.
So what he's going to do is he's going to pivot on his front foot, so he can rotate his shoulders. That way he would, but still without breaking contact with Golovkin's shoulder, because he needs to keep him smothered. So when he does that move, when he pivots and rotates his shoulders, he's not going to leave Golovkin's shoulder. Instead, he's just gonna try to, and he'll do it. He'll slide his face, the other side of his face, and his left glove to the same shoulder, while at the same time, see, he's getting his right hand free and able to, well, that's it, and is able to a punch that seems like it's blocked by Golovkin. Then there, hold on, that was too quick. Yeah, and like you see, any fighter who really knows how to fight on the inside, on that shoulder to shoulder distance, chest to chest, they are not going to leave any free room in between their punches. So you saw how Derevyanchenko just threw a right uppercut, and immediately following that uppercut, he's back on Gennadi's shoulder. And Gennady at this moment, he was on his own front foot, still more or less staying squared up, keeping his shoulders squared up more or less, not totally, but
you want to, because I think you want to be square. Certainly, the shorter the range, the squarer you really want to be, because you can use both hands equally. There's an equal distance of throwing the hand. Plus, if you're square, then you've got leverage to throw the punches. Plus, you can, with the uppercuts, you use your shoulder and the ground to actually drive it. What Sergey is doing, but Gennady is trying to pivot to obviously neutralize him throwing that uppercut.
Exactly, and plus here right now you see that they're both of them are in a crouching position, very low gravity of their upper bodies for both of them. But then what Golovkin is doing, he rotates his shoulders again while lifting his left shoulder at the same time and lifting Derevyanchenko, who's leaning on him too. And it's now that he rotates his shoulder a bit and creates the additional room with his left forearm, just to throw in just a bit of balance and backward to create the backward motion of to just quickly snap Derevyanchenko's body back, so he's not in a position to answer, to get him off balance for a split second when he's gonna throw the right uppercut. And then after that right uppercut, he gets out of range, stepping out with double left hook. Yeah. So these were all the videos already published, but now we are going to.
Let's get into the exclusive content.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. And what I'm going to do, I'm gonna leave the two most interesting videos, probably the most interesting videos, for for the last. Let me just decide on what's the next one I'm gonna play. I'm probably gonna start with some short one. Okay. Let's share the screen. Okay, so the title of the video is Negating Angles. And in one of the videos that I made for for Derevyanchenko, for how he was able to get to the outside angle against Golovkin.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's true, but also during the fight, Golovkin became he started adapting. Not always, he was not always successful with it, but in many occasions he was able to adapt to it. And let's see how he's doing it. Let's play it. Yeah, so his idea was to simply block the first punch and then step out vertically with his right. You know what? In fact, yeah. So this video ended. I think that for the other videos, what I'm gonna do is I'm I'm going to commentate over it, and I'm gonna mute the audio of the video. I
think that's
think
a
it.
good idea.
Yeah, it would be better. Okay, so. What's the video? Yeah, preventing counter punches. I think it is, yeah, another very short video. Let's go to it.
One of the hardest skills in boxing,
Oh yeah,
to prevent being counterpunched. Yeah. Especially for a fighter who is not renowned for counterpunching, and fortifying his defense is the key. So he's not going to be repelling firepower, but he can counter, or he, better still, he'll stop you countering.
Yeah, and even on top of that, even when you look at some guys who are really good at setting up counter punches, even them themselves are often not able to evade the counter punches when their opponents are
Yeah.
countering them. Like I saw it many times with either Floyd Mayweather or even with with Terence Crawford. But yeah, let's see this video. So yeah, like I'm saying, the ex-Soviet school of switching all in between the three stances: short, mid, or long range. And in this video, he was doing it by stepping to short range immediately after throwing his punches and smothering his opponents with his shoulders. That way, he was able to to prevent counters from both Derevyanchenko in this fight, but also against Canelo Alvarez. Although against Canelo, he was using less of his hooks and circular punches and more doing so stepping in behind the stiff jab, and then just like here against Derevyanchenko, going straight behind his shoulder to short range to smother Canelo, whom uh, okay, you may say Canelo is an inside fighter, and he clearly does have some excellent punching, inside fighting skills. But I don't know, maybe it's more. I'd say he's working more at short mid range, something like that.
Yeah.
Not really, um, not really operating at shoulder to shoulder.
Or chest to chest. Yeah. It's not inside the pocket at all.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, Golovkin himself, he's not really working a lot on the inside, but his defense on the inside, well, like we saw, is, in my opinion, really excellent. I absolutely love it. Um, yeah, but can go to the next one.
I mean, official Golovkin is one of these fighters that utilizes shoulder heavily, not only as the foundation for throwing his punches, but we saw there in terms of getting leverage and pivoting off the shoulder and blocking shots, as well as maneuvering opponents away to prevent being counterpunched or them using their uppercut. Now, this guy, he must have had one of the most robust and dynamic rotator cuffs in his shoulders. So much of his offense and defense was relying on those on his shoulders, and you can see from his upper body as well that he was, because a lot of fighters have had injuries with shoulder injuries and surgery. It's a recurring injury for a lot of these fighters because
Yeah,
of the stresses and strains of the shoulder, and you know an overload of stress which causes the cuff to be damaged. But with Golovkin, it must be made of some flexible, robust, steel.
yeah, you know what? Well, speaking of his shoulders and rotator cuff, I'm really sad that I didn't have enough of time. I wanted to make another video. The video about his left hook, the one he's throwing from above,
Yeah,
from that weird angle. Well, I'm surely gonna do it for one of the future episodes. But yeah, thinking and rewatching him throwing that punch these last couple of days, it made me think about the same thing you just said. But yeah, funny enough that you were speaking about him, his defense. Him defending himself with his shoulders a lot, because for the record, for anybody listening, corruption is not aware of of the videos that I prepared for this show, the ones that we are exclusively showing. So one of them that we are going to see later is Golovkin and shoulder roll breakdown. So yeah, but it just tells you that both corruption and myself here are more than able to pay attention to details and you know, and be aware of those. And by the way, shout out to Fightfield, aka Precise, because he was the only one mentioning his shoulder roll. I cannot remember the exact videos, but I remember him speaking of it and making, mentioning it in one of his breakdowns. So we here at the Coup d'etat of boxing, we are not like some other channels and I'm really disappointed with them, because many of the things that I showed in my breakdown videos, they're using it, they're repeating it, mentioning it, and acting
stealing it. Let's just
acting as it was them who found it out, but before me showing some of the fighters' moves and the techniques, no one was able to talk about some really specific things that I was the first one to mention, but I never really cared about it. But looking back at it, I'm just really disappointed, man, because as you can see, both corruption and myself, we are name dropping people anytime, like just on the show and every previous episode. Whenever someone brings up a good point, we are even if we also we thought about it, but we don't fail to mention it, and it's really, it's hurting my pride. But anyways, fuck them. That's a bitch move, but let's go on with this breakdown. Okay, so Golovkin punching technique and fundamentals. Let's see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I might be the co-CEO of the Coup d'etat of boxing, but I don't get any sneak preview either.
oh man,
It's a me.
Sorry, I thought I was speaking, but I haven't realized I was muted. Yeah, so both of them, they're stepping in with the right hand, Golovkin with the overhand right, Derevyanchenko with a straight right, and next thing now they're about to exchange their hooks, left hooks.
Yeah. Look at who's using part of the glove and who isn't.
Sorry?
So look at who's using the knuckle part of the glove.
Oh, that. See, I was not paying attention to it, but wonderful point, great point. Yeah, Gennadiy clearly landing with his knuckle part, while Derevyanchenko usually slapping. But what is interesting about this exchange, like I wrote it in the subtitles, Derevyanchenko, he was when he threw his right hand, he was leaning over his front foot and was in an unbalanced position. The way he threw his left hook, he just lifted his head up, uh, and at the moment of throwing it, and during his left hook, from the moment he started throwing it till his left hook ended, his head stayed at the same place during and after the punch. While let's see Golovkin. Meanwhile, Golovkin's head moves from his front foot over to his back foot during his left hook. Both were throwing the same punch at the same time, but only one stayed safe using the correct technique. So it's pretty much self-explanatory. This is another instance of this breakdown, this clip isn't anything complicated, complex. It's just one of the boxing's fundamentals, but only Golovkin was using it, and it was in the the last round, the 12th round, when they were both tired, etc. So you see what change in the fundamentals are making. Okay, so I'm about to show Golovkin and him setting up body shots. Now, in the previous one of the previous clips, we saw how Derevyanchenko was able to land his liver shot on Golovkin, but this time this is about Golovkin and him setting his punches. So, yeah, set up left hand like he very often does, making Derevyanchenko weave underneath it, and but then afterwards he just quickly feints a jab upstairs. So for the simple reason that he's trying to confuse Derevyanchenko. He wants to first he threw a left hook to make him weave underneath. Then the next thing is he's going up, feinting a jab to make him to make Derevyanchenko straighten up his stance to go up, to finally go down with the right hook to the body. And it's true that on the video, on this example, Golovkin is missing, but man, it was extremely smart way to set up a body shot. Now, the reason that he missed with that right hand, with that right hook to the body, is that, well, as you can see, Derevyanchenko stepped out of range. He was extremely quick to react. But then, hold on. And he often does this even while missing with his right hook. The way he's shifting his stance, you can clearly see that he's setting up a similar punch from the other side. After missing the right hook and shifting his stance and moving his upper body over the left foot. But he sees that Derevyanchenko is too far away, so he weaves his upper body over to his back foot and safely steps out behind the preventive jab. Yeah, go on, Corruption.
Yeah, he's almost sending the decoy with his left hand.
Yeah. And Oh, it's just too bad that in this example, this was the only fight I was reviewing, um, because I was very interested in this fight. I think that technically and strategically, it was a wonderful fight. I saw a lot of skills from both of them, but especially Golovkin, and that's the very reason I'm breaking down this fight. Uh, but yeah, I'm sure there were in some of his other fights there were examples where he was able to land those body punches, but
Yeah,
yeah, only with this fight.
the boxing public are going to be frowning upon reviewing your videos, official. They're going to be saying, well, Sergey won the fight. What are you talking about? What was
Yeah.
the effectiveness in all of these Golovkin tactics if Sergey beat his ass? You know?
Well, it's probably because most of them are not able to pay close attention to.
Yeah,
They're not trying to see how cerebral Golovkin is. Now, with some of his moves, he didn't have success, but with a lot of them, as we are seeing on these examples, he had a lot of a lot of success, and people are like, just most of them are probably watching the fights drunk, like you said, just wanting to have fun, and that's nothing wrong with it. But let the
90%
real professional,
not even differentiate a legal punch
yeah,
from an illegal punch. That's what I've
yeah,
gauged. Um, not, o-
exactly. So,
not only in how the punch is delivered and what the law stipulates is the legal portion of the glove, but also the parameters that are imposed by the referee in terms of punches below the belt. They clearly don't know what punches below the belt is, because we know Derminchenko. It may have been illegal or not, we don't know, but they weren't evident in the Charlo fight. But there was a lot of blows, and the referee was warning Sergey for throwing a lot of low blows, but never deducted any points. So
oh yeah, there were a lot of hip shots, and even you're going to see on one of the videos. I don't know if I'm not sure if I already showed it or not. Maybe I already showed it, but there was one example where I saw the most skilled elbow punch from from Sergey Deryanchenko landing on Gennadi's face. It made me laugh because despite it being dirty, Sergey really knows how to sneak in the illegal punches, and it was too hard to see it. But like I said, nothing wrong with people not being able or willing to pay attention to the small details. They're just probably wanting to. They probably want to have some fun, but then leave the fight breakdowns and analysis to the real professionals like corruption boxing and official scorecard. But it's true, man. uh, we are paying a lot of attention to details. But yeah, so let's go to Gennady. Like, these subtitles are saying 3 instances of a Golovkin making use of shoulder roll instead of, making it a style. Yeah, so Deryanchenko has him squared up and off balance, pushing his neck down and getting ready to catch him with the right uppercut. See how he's pushing him down? Then Golovkin rotates his hips and shoulders, placing his lead foot forward and smothering Deryanchenko's uppercut that way and rolling the uppercut with his left shoulder. Golovkin in this instance, while he's stepping back and while Derevyanchenko is stepping forward and leaning in with his overhand right, Gennadiy catches him with the left hook, right uppercut on the fly while going backwards. And the way he ends up here, one, he's on the ropes. Second thing against him is that he squared up after throwing the uppercut. And the third is that his lead, the left hand, is very low, while you see where Derevyanchenko's right glove is really close to his face. So it tells you that Golovkin's when the instances in which he uses the shoulder roll, they're situational in a sense that he's not trying to force it to make it a style, but rather use it when he needs to use it and when it is the best form of defense for him, like after throwing a punch and not bringing his hand back, or we're going to see the other instances. But in this one, you see how close Derevyanchenko's right glove is to his chin, and Derevyanchenko is about to throw it. And so that's how he rolls it. Because it was the quickest way of defense, to twist his hips and rotate his shoulders. There was nothing else to do for him than roll it with his shoulder. Now here they're at short mid-range, it depends, mid or short range. Their feet are apart, but their upper bodies are close at short range. So as I wrote here, despite not protecting his forehead, Golovkin his guard is protecting everything from his belt up to his chin, just offering his forehead. And with Derevyanchenko wearing his combos up and down, Golovkin doesn't want to lift his guard up because Derevyanchenko's volume is too big on the inside. He throws too many punches, varying them up and down to the head and body. So there is no question that Golovkin is gonna leave his body open. And that's why he simply, he was able to see that the right hand is coming. And that's how, while placing his upper body over his back foot, he just rolled his left shoulder and rolled another right uppercut. Yeah, those are three instances in which he used the shoulder roll. There are, he used it in almost all of his fights, but those are, like I said, he's not boxing from that Philly shell stance. He's not using that stance, but is using that defense of rolling punches with his left shoulder and even the right shoulder, which is rare. And I saw many old school fighters doing that, especially the American old school fighters. From the newer generation of fighters, only Golovkin, Danny Jacobs, and even Tyson Fury, and I'm sure some other fighters probably too, were able to roll even with their right shoulder from the orthodox stance, which is very unorthodox. But yeah, so corruption, there are 3 videos left. Now the next one I'm gonna play is called Methodical beatdowns. I'm gonna walk you all through it. Let me share the screen, take a sip of my coffee. By the way, Corruption, are you there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. I was just checking. Thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna try to read this those credits as they're rolling on the screen. With Golovkin's fast twitch fibers slowing down, him being more of a natural boxer than a counterpuncher, and facing a boxer who uses a lot of foot and upper body movement, and who's as well quicker than him, Golovkin was obligated to put his ring IQ to use in order to set up his offense. Despite catching Derevyanchenko with many good counters in the process, especially in the later rounds when he got Derevyanchenko's timing down. A big percentage of his offense was based on methodically setting up his combos. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. It means that he was not able to constantly use his fast twitch muscles and counter him, and but instead he was trying to set him up in uncomfortable positions with his combos, and it's the way he was doing it. It was great. He was reading Derevyanchenko's reactions to his basic combos before starting to build up on them, varying his patterns and speed, catching Derevyanchenko off balance and timing him. He was only using 3 punches for the most part, a jab, and he was using it mostly as a setup punch instead of trying to hurt him or even score with it. Then his left hook and a punch that was really devastating, really useful to him throughout this whole fight, his right uppercut. He was throwing it up and down, but people are they are talking about Sergey's body punching that he did in this fight, and it was really good, very good, no doubt about it. In fact, he was able to catch him with that fantastic liver shot, but just we are going to see it later in or maybe it's in this very video. I think it's this very video, just how many body punches, the amount of right uppercuts to the body he was able to hit Derevyanchenko with. And he sporadically used the overhand right, but only as a setup before really adding it in the late rounds where he started using it more seriously as more than just a setup. But yeah, let's see.
And Sergey's got tremendous punch resistance. He's taken a hell of a lot of punishment, especially in the Golovkin fight. So if you're walking into a Charlo fight, given the punishment that you've taken from this fight, then it clearly shows what sort of viable opponent you're facing.
Yeah, I mean, not like we are trying to give excuses, but it was. You remember you and me speaking about that fight. Yeah, well, we did it on the show after the fight. Sergey was really stationary and hesitant at mid-range against Charlo, staying in front of him for too much and being hesitant to go on the inside.
Yeah.
It was his reactions, they were slower.
He abandoned pretty much all of the techniques he was using in the Golovkin. What happened to all the rabbit punching, the elbows, the low blows? The Chow Yun fat slaps. Didn't see any of them. Mysterious.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. So let's see round 1. He's throwing just hooking of the jab. In the first round, he threw a couple of hooks. Round 2, jab, right uppercut. Round 2, jab, right uppercut again. Round 3, back to jab, left hook combo. Round 3, jab, overhand check hook. Round 4, jab, left hook, right uppercut. Round 4, left hook feint, right uppercut while wearing the speed, check hook, right uppercut. So you see how he was wearing his punches and the speed of it. Then he's starting slowly adding up the double left hook. He throws double left hook, right uppercut. Round 5, right uppercut, left hook, jab, and not really throwing it, but more like observing Sergey's reactions while throwing those punches. See. Round 6, jab, left hook, right uppercut. Round 6, left hook, left uppercut. Round 6, jab, right uppercut again. Round 6, double jab, right uppercut feint, left hook. So you see how, for the most part, he was using just 3 punches, just like I wrote at the beginning of this video. Mainly his jab and only as a setup, his left hook and right uppercut. Then he was, breaking down and varying his rhythm of the punches. But I'll get into it in
But he
one
but
of
he
the
wasn't
next videos.
always using the jab. Like one of them was what, left hook, right uppercut. So the
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he's,
yeah. So
he's trying to vary the sequence, not making it obvious that if he's just going to start off the combination with a jab, that it's going to be a combination. So it's still making Sergey guess.
yeah, corruption. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. The amount of different combos he was able to come up with just only those 3 punches, varying them. It was almost limitless, because he was using those 2 or 3 punches for the most part, but he was the not always in the same pattern, always varying them, changing the speed, pausing in between them, feinting in between them, like just like in this example. Okay, let's watch.
It's
Double
amazing, isn't
jab,
it? How
feint.
cerebral he is in the midst of battle, devising
Yeah,
new and new combinations.
and that's another thing that I wrote. Well, you'll see it in the other video. But yeah, see how here he double jabs, then feints the right uppercut instead of throwing it, and delaying, throwing Sergey off his timing off, and then throwing a left hook. Jab, left hook, right uppercut. Again, it was a deadly combination for him. Yeah, right now he was hooking up the jab again for the first time since the first round, probably. Then again, back to jab, right uppercut. Then it's still the 7th round, jab, left hook, jab. Then here, this is the 8th round. He's starting to add the double left hook really this time. So setting it up with the overhand right and then the left hook.
That's a beauty, that one.
Yeah, let's see it again. Hold on. Here it is.
That's the one that does damage. The overhand right, double left hook.
Oh yeah, because he got him used to most of the times what he was doing. He would throw that jab over his head and then follow it up with the right uppercut, mainly to the body. But this time he doubled up on his left hook, and man, it was really beautiful. Let's see it one more time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, again, round 8, jab, left hook, right uppercut, the same deadly combo. Round 9, he's adding the overhand right, using it more. And from this point on, from the 9th round on, even his punching output, his pace, his footwork, more fluid combos and footwork, um, uh, foot and hand coordination, because up till this moment he was breaking. He was how do you say? Hold on. He was breaking his rhythm in the middle of his combos. But now the 9th round on, he's starting being more fluid. For example, up till the 9th round, what he was doing most of the times, the way he was throwing his combos, they were like jab, jab, then make a pose or just take a quick step forward and then throw another punch, follow it up. While here he started basically what he started doing is started throwing punches with every step he took. So and yeah, his combinations because of that became more fluid. But I'll speak more of it in the next video. Then round 10 again, jab, overhand, left hook. See how from the 9th round he started using that overhand right even more, either as a weapon or to set up the left hook. Something that Sergey was not seeing in the first 8 rounds. And again, doubling up on the left hook in the later stage of the fight. Same thing here, again, using the overhand as a real weapon, trying to hurt him, but also set up the left hook. And he was boxing a lot. He was playing a lot with the range going in and out. So it was the time that he got Deryanchenko's timing down, fighting at a higher pace. You see how he just obliterated him with those combos, with from all the angles, then taking a step back and then jumping back in, and jab, overhand, left hook. Now it's back, jab, overhand, left hook, jab, jab.
Amazing how Sergey didn't go down from that.
Oh yeah.
Because he's coming back with jabs after the power punches. Because that's
Yeah.
when they say when a fighter is off balance, that's what you do. You go straight for the jab after.
Yeah. You're preventing him from regaining his balance. You're
Yeah,
keeping him,
off balance. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's something that Sergey is doing a lot as well. He knows how to do it as well.
Well-schooled fighters, they know what they're doing.
Absolutely amazing. And here, the last round, you see how well he really started well. That's the clip that we already saw. Throwing a really big overhand right and then setting his left hook with it. And that's something that he was doing throughout this whole 12th round. Again, going in and out, being more active, throwing more fluid and quicker combos, and then again, double left hook. Here, double left hook, the second one missed, but it shows you that, well, it just shows you how cerebral he is. Cerebral warrior, because people are like failing to see, just like with what I was saying about prime Mike Tyson. People thought, and even me myself when I was younger, before me really trying to analyze Mike Tyson, I thought that he was throwing some punches, some wild punches, not being cautious. Just that the reason he was throwing some wild punches is that he was not being conscious, but in fact he was using them to mask, him stepping to the other angle, just like
Yes.
Golovkin is doing with his left hooks when he switches to the other side to set up a body shot from the other side. Well, just the way Loma was able to. What's the Puerto Rican's name at 126? Not Rodriguez. Oh, I forgot his name, but
Oh,
you know that
yeah. Rocky
Martinez. Thank you.
Martinez. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the way he was able to knock him out, feinting a left hook and then coming up with an uppercut. Well, corruption now. This is where the the fun part is really coming. I don't know which one to play first. This one probably. I think that you're really going to love it, and I'm just it's a pretty short video, 35 seconds long, and I'm not gonna comment on it. I'm just gonna mute myself and let you watch it and as well listen to it.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a Mexican jab?
Have I heard of a Mexican jab?
Yeah.
I haven't heard the commentators directly speaking about a Mexican jab in
Oh
the
yeah.
context in the context of trying to differentiate it from a, say, an American or a European jab.
Oh yeah. Because because uh, okay. So you already know. Then if you already heard about it, I guess you know what it is. But I didn't know before. This was this was my this was a big discovery. I mean, not something extremely very important, but very interesting
Yeah.
discovery for myself. But okay, I'm gonna play it. Yeah, so yeah, that's that video. Because I remember, I didn't know about this move up till I decided to analyze this fight. I clearly saw that Golovkin was taking that, pushing his back foot forward before throwing a punch, and I guessed I guess that it is to close the distance to hit the target from a longer range to catch it. But I also thought it may be some kind of feint. Then I remembered because something like a year ago when I discovered because I was watching Hiroto Kyoguchi's YouTube channel before that. Before he started his YouTube channel, there was a lot of his videos, him doing the breakdowns on Watanabe Boxing Gym channel on YouTube, and I remember seeing these videos. So it was a nice discovery to me. I didn't know that it was a Mexican Jap. I was not aware of it. So yeah, any of you, wanting to watch those videos, find both channels, Hiroto Kyoguchi's channel as well as Watanabe channel, Watanabe Boxing Gym. I mean, it's true they're speaking in Japanese, but if you turn on the automatic subtitles, you're able, to understand the things they're saying for the most part. It's I like it, and yeah. But anyways, the last video that I named the Master of Rhythm. Let me share it.
An official, Watanabe, the significance
Yeah.
that probably after the great fighter who was the only undisputed at super flyweight.
See, only a few days ago, I
Yeah.
went on, to look for it, and I found it out that it was a Japanese fighter. Yeah, I didn't know it.
The
Only,
Yakuza. Yeah, he was a.
yeah, he was part of the Yakuza.
Look into the activities that he got into. Yeah, interesting character.
Oh, interesting. By the way, it's funny. To me, the corruption in Japanese boxing was. It seems different to me because while I got used to, for example, on whoever's territory you're boxing, they're usually going to back their home fighter. But no, them in Japan, they don't care about it. They would often give the decision to, they would drop their own fighters, like it happened in when Hassan and Dan was fighting the Japanese guy, then Ioka against Donny Nietes. I think it took place in Japan.
Right.
So,
I was in China.
oh, China. Oh, yeah, Macau. Oh, that's right.
Oh, Donny
That's
beat
right.
him. Nothing wrong with that decision.
Sorry?
Nothing. Didn't say anything.
Oh, so you do not disagree with the decision?
No, I don't disagree with it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, people are
Okay.
just well over exaggerating regarding that one, I think. But they seem,
Probably.
yeah, they seem to think that Donny Nieves was just completely ineffective the whole fight. But that's just nonsensical.
Interesting point.
These guys that have jumped on the Ioka bandwagon when they clearly weren't there years ago when he was fighting. It's too many dick riders, man. Sick of a lot of them.
Yeah.
See how they're all bigging up Tanaka and Ioka now, but they've never covered their fights in the past.
Yeah, that's why, man. Honestly, that's why I'm always saying I'm not pretending to be. How do you say? To have a deep knowledge, for example, of the 108 division, because I always credited you with, your videos making me, aware of the division and making me want to watch them. And I know very few fighters, only the top fighters from the division, and I wasn't watching it from a long time But as
I was doing Google Hangouts live stream of those fights, like 2014, 2013.
yeah, oh yeah,
Fights were actually on Japanese TV and just doing, commentary with B Marsh and Nauta and people like that.
it was so long ago. It was back when Kell Brook's face was still intact. Yeah. Oh, okay. So okay, finally the last well the last one. It's about Gennadiy Golovkin's rhythm. Okay, let's play it and I'll read the captions. What many people are failing to realize is that Golovkin's boxing is very structured and cerebral, and that he isn't looking to always put fluid and quick punches together. Instead, he's slowly building the complexity of his combos throughout the fight and is able to vary them in almost limitless fashion, often by only using 2 or 3 same punches. On One of his trademarks that surprisingly no one talks about is him breaking the rhythm of his combos in between or before his punches. He mostly does it by just pausing or taking a step forward in between his punches, but he can also do it with lateral back steps or by feinting a punch too. At the moment his opponent is expecting a punch, let's say Golovkin simply pauses or takes an additional step without throwing any punch, and this way he offsets his opponent's timing and makes him react before Golovkin is actually throwing the next punch. Okay, so here it comes. Yeah, and so almost every time he was throwing those jab, left hook, right uppercut to the body combos. After his left hook, he would just step in while protecting himself with his lead hand, but it really offsets his opponents, and he's doing it his whole career. You see the colored part of the video are those when he's I'm gonna run it again. It's not it's a short video, but the colored part are the parts when he's making that he's going off beat, making that small pause. Because like I said earlier, he was the only time he really started putting up more fluid combos together were the last the last stage of the fight, the last round, those last couple of rounds. But before that, up till probably the ninth 10 round, a lot of combos with this broken rhythm. See what I mean by that? He's not. Let's see this example. He throws a jab and he steps in with his jab. So his left glove and left foot are coordinated. At the same time, he's taking a step and throwing a punch with the same hand. Then the same thing with that left hook. Jab and moves, left hook and pivots. But then here, he just steps in, see, while protecting himself with his left forearm, lead forearm, steps in, and he already with that step, he made Derevyanchenko react to it. In this very example, he's reacting by trying to step out of range. Now, if he didn't make that pose and immediately threw his right uppercut immediately after his left hook, Derevyanchenko would be out of range by then. But it was not the case because of that pause that Golovkin made. And maybe it's not clear for everybody, those pauses and those step forward or lateral steps without throwing a punch, maybe not everybody is able to see them in this video, but if you was to watch them, if you was to watch the full fight, you would clearly see what I'm pointing out in these examples, that his combinations are not fluid. He's not throwing a jab and stepping in with his left foot, then throwing a left hook, pivoting. You know, he's not moving and stepping with every punch. There's a lot of those pauses in the midst of his combos, so that's how he's constantly catching them off balance and off guard, unprepared, and making them react before he actually throws a punch. So I don't know, I guess that would be it. Do you want to say anything else, or do you want us to end this episode?
No. What I want to is express some gratitude for the extensive and protracted film analysis. You know, words cannot emphasize the time it takes to to isolate all of the clips and to record and to edit, to provide vocal narrative. It's a tremendous effort, and very compelling, very educational, a brilliant sequence. And I'm sure a lot of
Thank you
a lot of those who are still following the show but can go back and sort of break it down and absorb the clips and try and watch the fight again, and so you can kind of reconcile what official has been trying to ascertain throughout. But much respect, official. If the coup d'etat gets to the promised land, we grow and we expand rapidly, and we're fortunate enough to have an IPO share offering on the London stock market. I'll ask our board of directors, definitely to tabulate the largest, so you'll have majority share offering, because you deserve it for all of your endeavors in a lot of the work you're doing with these videos, which takes hours and hours. So much respect, magnificent effort, and thoroughly enjoyed them.
Thank you a lot, Corruption. You know that, first of all, I appreciate when someone like you who's able to pay as much attention to boxing as myself, when you're giving me the credit, as well as our usual viewers, the people that all we know, and just giving me the credit is enough. Thank you for that.
So all of these new videos that you've created in the last, that I wasn't even a privy to seeing beforehand, they're all going to be posted on your channel. Is that correct?
Well, you know what? In the midst of doing these breakdowns, I was thinking about something. I'm gonna do the same thing. Well, like I did here. For example, I started by uploading a couple of videos on the other channel, just to make people aware that this show, to make them come to the show and listen to the show. And
That's
and
going to be the
my,
prime location to showcase those
yeah,
videos. So you're
yeah,
redirecting traffic. Yeah.
that's exactly what I was trying to do, to redirect the traffic towards our channel and our show, so people could see it there, here. So it means I'm going to continue doing it now with these clips that I showed here, these brand new clips that I haven't published on the other channel. I may publish them, but in the following months, if people are really enjoying those that there's on the other channel, uh, it's not hard to come to the coup d'etat of boxing and watch it. And then I'm not going to be pressured into into quickly uploading them, because for the 31 of December, we have Ioka versus Tanaka. So I want to do those are the fighters that I'm gonna be breaking down next, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So if people from the other channel are enjoying those, they have many more of those on our channel. We did like
Absolutely.
8 or 9 videos here. So those that we showed, the brand new ones, I may upload them, but in the following months, much later, and still redirect people towards our show's channel. And we're gonna do the same with both Yok and Tanaka, and I'm also willing to do the breakdown of Junto Nakatani's last fight. It was very interesting to me. So if I have enough of time, and being that there, beside Yoka Tanaka, there is not too many interesting fights in boxing, I may have enough of time to do the Nakatani breakdown next.
Yeah. I did ask official whether he'd be willing to do some KD Taylor videos, but he said to me, if you persist with that, the coup d'etat is only going to be a solitary venture from now on.
Damn sure.
So, yeah, looking forward to the Corsair and the Kazuto video analysis. We're going to see how the samurai is going to cut down the old guard.
Oh, so that's your prediction for now.
I'm a man of deception. So, I'm a 3D chess player.
Well,
But
interesting.
yeah, as what happened in Japan with the Ministry of Finance and the central bank post the
Oh yeah.
financial collapse in Japan. If you understood what happened there, that's what I think is going to happen. It's the way that Japan always introduces a crisis to get structural reform, and we're going to see that in boxing as well.
Interesting.
Very cryptic, but
I'd even say that's something that's happening right now all over the world.
yeah,
With
yeah, it'll take the really deep thinkers to understand the analogy I made there. But anyway, official. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to cover. It's been as we mentioned before, the show is about detail and depth. So if it goes over a certain length, I'm not too concerned. If the
Same
viewers
here.
are, that's unfortunate. But we've indicated our strategy, what this channel represents from the outset. So it is what it is. Preview for the next week's fights, I think there's a DAZN card. Could be a Danny Jacobs and a Gabriel Rosado pretty garbage fight. Not sure what's happening on the undercard of that fight, so I don't believe there's going to be too many critical fights to discuss next week. But if that's the case, we'll come back with some more video analysis. I know I want to talk a little bit about one or two fighters as well.
Please go on.
Yeah, I may go back to some of the one or two key marquee fighters from the 80s who are largely forgotten, whose techniques I'll talk about. So,
Nice.
So, official, anything else you want to bring up before we end the show?
No, I just want to confirm what you were saying in regards of the upcoming fights. Only that the Jacobs fight is in 2 weeks. It's on the 27th of November, and with Andrade and Dusty Hernandez Harrison on the undercard. Very, very, very uneventful. And then, the Donaire Ubali fight, I think it's gonna be cancelled because of Ubali's visa problems. Spence and Garcia, I'm not sure, and it's far away. It's in December. We are not there yet, but yeah. So eventful. I would, or either me or you, we can give the shout outs to the listeners if you want to go on.
Yeah, we want to thank everybody who joined us for the live YouTube version of the podcast. All of the usual suspects that we indicated at the start. Let's have a look at all of the foot soldiers that stayed with us right to the end. Shout out to all of them. There we go. Guys like SSB and Philo and J Below Box, Ness. Who else we got? Tease, Intangible, Apology, Overhand. Also some great comments regarding they were talking about Gennadi's feet positions being a little bit more narrower than Sergey Darminchenko's, to give him that advantage once he's shifting his pivoting off the shoulder. So some good astute comments. A lot of people, shout out. The guys know who they are, apologies for everyone that we didn't acknowledge the comments whilst we were going through the film studies, but you kind of get immersed in the videos. But thank you very much to everybody. And we'll be back same time next week, 9 p.m, hopefully Central European time. And we'll get down to some more coup d'etat boxing. So from official scorecard, science, magnificent effort this week with all of his videos, fantastic. And myself, Corruption in Boxing. We bid you all sayonara.